Citizens of Madtropolis, it is time for MadGaines Moment. Let's talk about this price gouging situation, but for reals. First of all, stop calling it price gouging. When you look up the definition of gouging, it means that an entity is charging customers too much. Here, I don't think that's what the carriers are saying. The carriers are saying that they're being paid too little, and brokers are making a lot of margin on the shippers' rates. So let's stop calling it price gouging. Instead, we can call it, I don't know, carriers are angry because they're getting ripped off. Well, that doesn't fit because I think carriers are accepting the rates and they're still running the loads. Supply and demand. Nah, I don't want to say that because that's like old. Everybody's sick of that supply and demand statement. So we'll just call it the low rate situation. Okay. Carriers are upset with the brokers because brokers are paying very low rates and allegedly still making a lot of profit from shippers. Let's talk about that. Okay. So truckers are angry. I see it all over social media. Many have the right to be angry. I'll explain that in just a minute. Some of them were way off base. Some of them went to D.C. and demanded that the U.S. attorney, investigate illicit price gouging by freight brokers under the 1890 Sherman Antitrust Act that criminalizes corporate collusion and price fixing. Stop. Please stop saying Anti-Sherman Act. It does not apply here. That's when brokers all get together and they say, we're going to charge carriers. We're going to pay carriers this one rate. We're going to charge shippers this one rate. That's not what's going on here. It's just that rates are really, really low. There are a lot of shippers out there. Brokers are paying really low rates. It's nothing to do with this Sherman Act. Please do not throw that out. Throw it out of your brain entirely. Also throw the price gouging thing out, even though I said it earlier. But Trump also had said on Fox News that Trump says truckers are price gouged as shipping rates plunge. Again, even though the president doesn't understand the definition, y'all understand the definition. I'll stop using that word. So let's keep going. What does TIA say? This is interesting, y'all. This is so weird. Okay, so Bob, CEO of TIA, scripted out what seems to be a very unpopular video responding to the low rate situation. Bob says no one is getting pre-virus rates like some snakeskin oil salesman would have you believe. If carriers don't accept the rate, Bob says, both shippers and brokers will offer higher rates. Thanks. I'm a little salty about this, only because it's not true. Brokers are getting very, very low rates right now. Some of them are kind of ripping off the carriers. I don't think anyone's disputing that. Not every broker is doing that. And not every carrier is suffering from low rates either. We'll get to that in just a minute. So I don't know about this video, y'all. I don't know. So Bob says those who work in the industry, including brokers, know there are brokers making much. Oh, well, that's me. I'm saying there's much higher than 16% margin. Bob says 16% margin. In my notes, I say they're making higher than 16% margin. Some of them, not all of them. We all know that, right? So let's throw Bob and Anti-Sherman Act out the window. Now, let's go on to OIDA. So at the end of this, by the way, I'm going to give you your solution. For those of you who are like, why is Cassandra just bitching and ripping on everybody? It's because people are wrong and not focused. Be focused. MadGaines, focused. So OIDA, okay? They issue this letter, sent it out to all the representatives, and they say, and this is interesting, they cite to a regulation, 49 CFR 371, which requires brokers to keep records, including how much they're paid by the shipper and how much they pay the carriers. So carriers do have the right, and so do shippers, to ask for access to those records. The thing is that brokers, smartly so, put a waiver of this regulation in their contracts with carriers. Carriers who read the contracts will cross this out so that they always have access to these records, even though carriers never need them. They never ask for them. But most carriers don't even know the implication of this, and they sign the contract. So this is the interesting part. OIDA says that basically says brokers are blatantly and deliberately evading federal regulations. And they're taking, and this, okay. So brokers are allowed to waive this regulation there is a very, very, very clear statute that carries on and on and on about you can waive these regulations, like very clearly. So brokers aren't blatantly and deliberately evading regulations. And this rampant evasion is increasingly resulting in carriers assuming fairly or not that brokers have something to hide. Come on. I mean, yeah, sometimes brokers do have something to hide. But, I mean, that's business. And that's what the federal regulations, that's what Congress has decided they want to happen. So then I thought, all right, don't be such a bitch, Cassandra. Maybe OOIDA's making a good point. Maybe greater transparency is why this regulation was put into place. So I looked into the historical notes of that, that go into place when these regulations are passed and when Congress passes a statute. And so I found notes that said that it was really interesting because it talked about the brokerage services are performed for both the benefit of the carrier and the shipper. And that the broker has a similar function as to the carrier's sale or traffic departments would normally be performing. And that brokers open up the flow of business that would perhaps never have been tapped. So even our government is recognizing the value of a broker, and you want to know what's interesting? They even put in here, finally, the carrier is never required to pay a commission. So there was some discussion about, do carriers have to pay a commission for brokers' services? I'm pro-broker in this video a little bit because they're getting beat up a lot. And there are a lot of good ones out there. And I want to talk about that, okay? So OOIDA, goodbye. So what is the solution? Come on. You guys know in the bottom of your hearts, it's not more government involvement. Y'all are bitching about the government being involved too much in your business all the time. And now you want them involved now? But also, realistically, all these statutes would have to be changed. That would take a long time. Your time is better spent building relationships. People don't want to hear that because it's not a quick and easy solution. It's a long road and a hard one. And this isn't just to carriers. This is to brokers and shippers as well. I know brokers and shippers are getting so much pressure from their bosses, from C-suite, to find the cheapest carriers and just run those loads and make as much money as possible. And that's very short-term thinking. Because if you take care of your carriers, those carriers will remember you took care of them. And when the tables are turned, they'll support you. I'm not saying people aren't making money, but I'm saying they're not ripping each other off either. There's that word again, ripping each other off. Carriers, I challenge you to network more. I never see you guys, or I shouldn't say never. I rarely see you guys on social media. Get out there. You'll easily be able to find out who the crappy brokers are and who the good ones are, and the crappy shippers and the good shippers. And come to my MadGaines sessions because we're all good people trying to do the right thing and have long-term relationships with our carriers. Join us. Follow us. And keep your head up because you're not the only ones suffering right now. Our entire country is running businesses in the red. People are losing their jobs and extremely angry and frustrated, just like you guys. So be patient and remember who took care of you during this time frame. And remember who didn't. Stop running loads for them. All right, MadGaines Moment. Over.